They tell the story about this guy who dies and comes to heaven, and he's shown a flashback of his life, and he notices that when he was going through the happy times of his life, there were two sets of footprints along the beach. And when he came to the most difficult moments of his life, there was only one set of footprints. So he said to God, God, how is it that you didn't walk by my side, that you abandoned me during my most challenging hours? And God said to him, my son, the one set of footprints you see during your difficult periods is mine. I was carrying you on my shoulders. This week's Torah portion, Moshe Rabbeinu reviews the journeys of the Jewish people in the desert. And he says, God carried you like a parent carries a child throughout the entire journey of 40 years to the land of Israel. But yet, Moshe Rabbeinu says, Ubadavar hazeh, in this matter, einchem maminim, you did not have faith in God. You did not have trust in God. And the question is, how could the Jewish people not have trusted in God after seeing so many revealed miracles? And the answer, perhaps, says the Maral, is that we mistranslate the word faith, which in Hebrew is emunah. People often say, faith, do you believe in God? But the truth is, when you say, I believe in someone, or I have faith in someone, you don't just mean that they exist. What you really mean to say is, I have faith in you, and I believe in you, and I trust in you, meaning that I could rely and depend upon you. Yes, in easy, good times, it's easy to see God and recognize God's hand in our lives. But in those moments that we do not see God's hand, we do not see His footprints alongside of us, do we lose faith? Do we lose trust in God? And here is where the Maral points out a very interesting interpretation to the word Amunah. In the story of Moshe Rabbeinu going up onto the mountain, leading the Jewish people in battle against Amalek, who attacked the Jewish nation after leaving Egypt, it says Moses lifted his hands to the heavens in prayer. And when his hands were tiring, Aaron and Hur held up his hands. And there the verse says, Vayihi yadav emunah. His hands were steadfast in the air, ad bo hashemesh, until the sun set. Says the Maral, you see that the word emunah doesn't just mean faith and trust. What it really means is steadfastness. Faith is that even when we go through a challenge, a battle, a struggle, like Moses fighting, when the Jewish nation fighting Amalek, we remain steadfast. That even when God is concealed in our lives, we remain faithful, we remain trusting, we remain steadfast in our belief that God is there and God will see us through. Just like He got us through the other moments of our life, so too He will be there for us like a loving parent in these challenging moments as well. You know, last week, Israel elected and installed its 11th president, Buzzi Herzog. And President Herzog took the oath of office on a very special Bible, a very special Chumash. It was one that his grandfather owned and is 107 years old. His grandfather was the first chief rabbi of Israel. His name was Rabbi Isaac Yitzchak Herzog. And he was the chief rabbi under the British mandate from 1936 until 1959, which means he was the first chief rabbi of Israel after Israel was formed in 1948. But then that Chumash was passed down to his son, who was Chaim Herzog, who became Israel's 6th president in 1983 and served till 1993. And now his grandson, Buzzi Herzog, stood there with this 107-year-old Chumash and placed his hand on it and took the oath of office to become the 11th president of the state of Israel. We as Jews can not only reflect on our own lives to recognize God's hand throughout our personal lives, to be steadfast in those moments that God has concealed and trust and have faith in Him and remain trusting in God, but we could look back to our parents, to our grandparents, to the generations and generations of Jews who always remained steadfast in their faith in God, even when it was not easy. But yet, that faith has stood by them, and that's why we are here today, because of that faith. And that's why our children and our grandchildren and all future generations will remain connected to our heritage, to our faith, and to God, because of our steadfastness, never wavering in our trust and faith in God. Have a wonderful day.